So I know that everyone's going to hate me for it, and there's very little I can do about it. But homes in America are actually quite affordable, and I can't believe that because I just found it out, and just can't believe it. Like I'm looking at the map, and it's insane. So this is property price index by country, and what it does is it like divides home prices by average income to figure out like how many years it takes to actually pay for a house if you're actually putting all of your income into paying for that house. And the US is literally number 3 in most affordable. Oman is first at 2.9, then it's Saudi Arabia at 3.1, and then it's the US at 3.3, which is insane. I mean, it makes sense in a way because it's so large, right? And also it has a very efficient economy, so it would make sense that it's more efficient for it to build houses, which does tend to bring house prices down. And then a last thing to consider is also Americans are very, very wealthy on average in terms of income when compared to the rest of the world. But yeah, like it's insane. I was not expecting that. Apparently South Africa is also pretty good. So yeah, Saudi Arabia, Oman, and look at China, for example. It's 29. Like, it takes 3 years, 3.32, with an average income to pay for an average house in the US, and it takes 29 in China. It's incredibly different. Even Australia's at 8.41. That means it's almost 3 times what it is in America. For New Zealand, it's exactly the same. Let's see for France. For France, it's even worse. For Canada, it's worse. And I can't quite figure things out. I think the fact is that since America is also so huge, a lot of the houses here, like that are considered like houses in the middle of nowhere in Kansas, in Tennessee, or in Wyoming, or whatever, or like in Detroit or in Chicago. And obviously, if you're in, I'm not saying you have an easy time. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, if you're in San Francisco, obviously, if you're in New York, if you're in LA, if you're in some very up and coming place, uh, yeah, it's gonna be rough. Like it's gonna be rough to afford a house, but even then, it's still like not affordable. I don't want to say it's easy for you to buy a house. If you're having like a hard time, I get you. You're having a hard time. But even Denmark, which is like all of those countries are like not Western, and then the first Western country besides the US that appears is Iceland, and it's 6.1. Denmark 6.6. Palestine, what the fuck is that doing here? I don't know how to read that data, honestly. If you guys have a better explanation for this data, I would love to hear it. Ireland at 7.2, Sweden at 7.7. Let's see what the worst countries are. So Syria, yeah, I guess it makes sense just out of how poor countries are. The income is driven so low that the income to price kind of doesn't really make sense anymore. But still, yeah, Syria, Ethiopia, Cuba, uh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Hong Kong. Hong Kong makes sense, right? I mean, it's an island, so yeah. It's very small. That's what I mean. China, damn, China's gonna have a housing burst at some point. Because like, the thing with like very high ratios like this is like this is not sustainable. Who's paying for this? Like, this is clearly House of Cards. This is clearly a House of Cards. South Korea very expensive as well. Vietnam, and what's more crazy is like China's population is about to be halved in the next century or so. Same for South Korea, and yet their house prices are insane. So not only is there going to be a natural burst that would happen, but on top of that, there's going to be like less and less people living there, and that means less demand for homes, whilst they're still being built. This is insane. Uh, we might be looking at a giant real estate crisis in the future for China, for South Korea. uh, Vietnam, I think, is a little bit different. I think it's still bound to grow, so it's not exactly like that. uh, Argentina is quite expensive. Brazil is surprisingly expensive, but again, you have to consider that it's like, obviously, if you're American and you go to Brazil, everything is going to be dirt cheap for you, but it's because Brazilians earn so much less than you that it's not affordable for them. You have to consider that as well. But yeah, this is the stat I wanted to show you guys. If you got any comments in the comment, like any ideas that could explain why this is. I mean, I think the explanation is the US is huge and some places in the US are very expensive, like SF or LA or NY or New York. And they just get compensated on the national average by overall prices. But I still think, like, how expensive would it be in SF? Because if it's like 10, which is 3 times the US ratio, it would still be not affordable, but it would still be like around here, like Canada on average, like Switzerland on average, and it would still be better than all of those countries over here. So yeah, interested to hear what you guys have to say. Have a good day.